Some of you walked in here today carrying wounds. Nobody sees battles. Nobody knows tears you've learned to hide behind a smile. But hear me, when God steps into your story, He doesn't just wipe away pain. He redefines it. He transforms it. He assigns it purpose. And I came to tell somebody today, your pain is not the end of your chapter. It's the birthplace of your purpose. Get ready, because God is about to turn what hurt you into what builds you. Pain is often the seed of divine purpose, though we rarely recognize it in the moment. When pain hits, it comes uninvited, unexpected, and often unbelievable in its weight. It disrupts plans, delays dreams, and shakes confidence. Yet throughout Scripture, throughout history, and throughout our own lives, pain has a way of becoming the soil where purpose takes root. It becomes the very thing God uses to reshape identity, redirect paths, and refine character. But when you're in it, you don't see purpose. You only feel pressure. You don't feel shaped, you feel shattered. Still, God works in the pieces. He works in the cracks. He works in the seasons where life feels unfair, confusing, or overwhelming. That's where the seed is planted. When a seed goes into the ground, it disappears. It's buried. It's surrounded by darkness. It undergoes pressure, and before it ever rises, it must first break. But that breaking is not destruction, it's formation. The outer shell is broken so the life inside can be released. That's how purpose works. It usually begins with a breaking, the loss of a job, the end of a relationship, the betrayal you didn't see coming, the diagnosis that took your breath away, the prayer that wasn't answered the way you hoped. These break-ins push us into transformation, not because the pain is good, but because God is good enough to use it. He doesn't cause every pain, but He refuses to waste any of it. Every heartbreak becomes a classroom. Every burden becomes a tool. Every disappointment becomes direction. Pain gets your attention in ways comfort never will. Comfort keeps you where you are, but pain pushes you toward where God wants you to be. Comfort can lull you into complacency, but pain can propel you into calling. Sometimes God allows discomfort not to punish you, but to awaken you, to remind you that there is more inside you than what you're currently living. Pain challenges the limits you placed on yourself. It breaks the boundaries of who you thought you could be. It forces you to reach for strength you didn't know you had. You learn resilience, determination, and endurance not in the easy times, but in the painful ones. And every time you rise after falling, purpose grows deeper roots. Pain also has a way of stripping away what is not essential. When life hurts, you let go of people who aren't meant to stay. You release habits that no longer serve you. You surrender illusions of control. You stop chasing things that don't fill you. Pain clarifies, it reveals what matters. It forces you to confront who you are and who you're becoming. In that refining, God realigns your path. He removes distractions, replaces priorities, and reorders steps so that your life begins moving toward the purpose He designed long before you ever felt hurt. Some of the most powerful purpose stories begin in places of deep struggle. Moses found his purpose after fleeing into the wilderness. Joseph discovered his purpose only after betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment. David was shaped in caves long before he ever sat on a throne. Even Jesus endured suffering to fulfill the greatest purpose of all. This doesn't mean you should seek pain, but it does mean that when pain arrives, you don't have to fear it. It may be a sign that God is preparing to elevate you. Many people want purpose, but they don't want the process that shapes it. Purpose is heavy. Purpose requires maturity. Purpose requires depth. And pain is often the tool God uses to dig deep enough to build something lasting. There is also a compassion that only comes from pain. You become more patient, more understanding, more gentle, more empathetic when you've walked through what others are walking through. Your testimony gains weight because it's not theory, it's experience. You don't just speak hope, you embody it. You don't just tell people God can heal, you testify that He healed you. This gives your purpose credibility. It gives your voice power. People may admire your success, but they connect with your struggle. Purpose becomes impactful when it is born out of something real, something lived, something survived. Pain becomes the bridge between you and the people you are called to reach. And once you've grown through pain, You begin to see how God weaves everything together. You notice how the job you lost made room for the job you were meant for. How the person who walked away made space for the person who will love you right. How the closed door redirected you to an open one. How the season that crushed your confidence built your courage. You realize the pain didn't end your story. It began a new one. It planted something in you that comfort never could have produced. A purpose with depth, purpose with direction, purpose with divine intention. In time, the very thing that hurt you becomes the thing that helps you. The thing you thought disqualified you becomes the reason you're effective. The wound becomes a well of wisdom. The tears become seeds of transformation. The breakdown becomes the breakthrough that aligns your life with God's design. And as you grow, you start to see the fingerprints of God in places you once saw only frustration. You begin to understand why you had to go through some things, even if you didn't deserve them. You start to appreciate how God didn't just bring you out, He built you through it. Pain is often the seed of divine purpose. It goes into your life buried, unseen, unwanted, but it rises transformed. What once looked like loss becomes gain. What once felt like punishment becomes preparation. What once made you cry becomes what makes you strong. And when God breathes purpose into your pain, you don't just survive it, you rise above it, walk with new authority, and step boldly into the life you were created to live. Your struggle is preparing you for strength, though the process rarely feels like preparation. When you're in the middle of a difficult season, all you see are the challenges, the setbacks, the frustrations that make you wonder if you're moving backward instead of forward. But strength is not built in comfort, it is forged in adversity. It grows in the places where you are stretched, pressured, and challenged beyond what you thought you could handle. Struggle becomes the training ground where your character, resilience, and endurance are developed. It shapes you into someone capable of carrying the blessings, responsibilities, and opportunities that your future will require. People often pray for strength, but strength doesn't arrive as a gift. It arrives as resistance. Nobody becomes strong lifting feathers. They grow strong lifting weight. The same is true in life. The situations that feel heavy, the responsibilities, the disappointments, the delays, the obstacles, are the very things that prepare your spirit to handle more. What you call struggle is often spiritual weight training. Every time you push through something you didn't think you could survive, your inner strength increases. Every obstacle you overcome becomes another layer of confidence. Every challenge you face without giving up becomes evidence that you are stronger than you were before. Struggle exposes your true potential. When everything is easy, you settle. You stay where you are. You stop dreaming bigger or reaching higher because comfort lulls you into a false sense of completion. But struggle disrupts that. It forces you to dig deeper. It pushes you to tap into gifts you didn't know you had, to seek God in ways you hadn't before, and to discover levels of perseverance that only rise in the heat of hardship. Strength grows when comfort fades. Strength grows when challenges appear. Strength grows when you decide to keep moving even when you feel like stopping. But struggle also shows you what needs to change. It reveals unhealthy habits, unhealthy relationships, and unhealthy mindsets. It uncovers the places where you have relied more on your own strength than on God's. It exposes the fears that have hindered your progress and the insecurities that have limited your growth. Instead of seeing struggle as punishment, see it as revelation. It shows you what must be addressed so that you can step into your next season without carrying what will weigh you down. Struggle refines you. It strips away what is weak so what is strong can remain. Sometimes the struggle is not about breaking you, but about breaking something off you, breaking off doubt, breaking off fear, breaking off pride, breaking off unhealthy patterns. You cannot rise to your purpose carrying everything from your past. God uses struggle as a cleansing tool, not to hurt you, but to purify you, sharpen you, and prepare you for a future that requires a stronger, wiser, braver version of you. Every great calling in Scripture was preceded by struggle. Before David became king, he faced giants and hid in caves. Before Joseph led a nation, he endured betrayal, slavery, and prison. Before Moses became a deliverer, he spent years in the wilderness. Before Paul wrote letters that shaped Christianity, he withstood storms, imprisonment, and rejection. Even Jesus endured isolation, temptation, persecution, and suffering before stepping fully into his mission. Struggle is not a sign that God has left you. It is often a sign that God is preparing you. When God is getting ready to elevate someone, he strengthens them first, and strength comes through struggle. Your struggle is equipping you for things you cannot see yet. You're learning patience because the next level will require it. You're learning discernment because you will need it. You're learning perseverance because the blessing God is preparing is big, and big blessings require big capacity. Every tear, every disappointment, every closed door is stretching something inside you that comfort could never touch. Think of how differently you respond to life now compared to who you were years ago. You've endured things that would have broken the person you used to be. What shook you then strengthens you now. That's growth. That's God using struggle as preparation. Struggle also teaches you dependence. Strength is not simply built on your ability to push through. It is built on your willingness to lean on God. In struggle, you realize that your own strength has limits, but God's strength does not. Struggle teaches you the rhythm of surrender, learning when to fight and when to trust, when to move and when to wait. It stretches your faith so that when you step into purpose, you do so anchored, grounded, and spiritually aligned. You learn how to pray more deeply, listen more intentionally, and trust more fully. Strength is not simply the power to endure, it is the wisdom to stay connected to the one who sustains you. As struggle continues, something subtle but powerful begins to happen. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of your circumstances and start seeing yourself as a survivor, a fighter, an overcomer. You begin to understand that you were built for more than you realized. You were designed with resilience woven into your identity. Each setback becomes proof that you can rise again. Each difficulty teaches you that you are adaptable, capable, and persistent. Strength shows up in your voice, in your steps, in your decisions. You begin to carry yourself differently, not with arrogance, but with assurance. And one day, you look back and realize the struggle was not destroying you, it was developing you. The things that once intimidated you no longer do. The situations that once made you doubt no longer shake you. You discover that what used to break you now builds you. What used to drain you now drives you. The struggle that felt like a burden becomes the reason you can stand strong in the next chapter of your life. Your struggle is preparing you for strength. It is shaping you into someone who can handle the weight of purpose, the responsibility of destiny, and the opportunities that will soon unfold. It's not just making you stronger, it's making you ready. Ready to rise, ready to lead, ready to love, ready to become everything God has called you to be. You may not see it yet, but every step you take through struggle is positioning you for a future filled with strength, clarity, and divine purpose. What broke you will soon bless you, even though right now it may feel impossible to believe. When something in your life breaks, your heart, your trust, your plans, your expectations, it creates a wound so deep that you wonder if you'll ever recover. You replay the moment over and over, searching for answers, searching for reasons, searching for some explanation that makes the pain feel purposeful. But in the middle of heartbreak, purpose feels distant. Blessing feels out of reach. All you feel is the ache, the confusion, and the weight of something that shattered what once felt whole. Yet God has a way of taking what was meant to break you and turning it into the very thing that blesses you. Not because the breaking was beautiful, but because his ability to redeem is. Sometimes life breaks you in places you didn't even know were fragile. A relationship ends that you thought would last forever. A friend betrays you in ways that cut deeply. A dream collapses after years of investment. A door you prayed would open is closed before you can step through it. In those moments, it feels like the breaking is a punishment, as if something is being taken from you. But often, something is actually being released in you. Breaking exposes what's beneath the surface. It reveals what you were holding onto too tightly. It reveals who or what you were relying on more than God. Breaking pulls back layers so that truth can rise to the surface. When something breaks, it forces a shift. It disrupts routines, patterns, and comfort zones. It pushes you into unfamiliar territory where you have no choice but to grow. You begin to see life differently. You begin to see yourself differently. You begin to see God differently. When your heart breaks, it softens. When your plans break, they make room for God's plan. When your expectations break, they create space for something better than what you imagined. Nothing broken stays the same, and sometimes the blessing is found in who you become after the breaking. But the blessing is rarely visible in the moment. It usually appears in hindsight once you've healed enough to look back without hurting. You begin to realize that the relationship that ended saved you from a lifetime of misalignment. The job you lost cleared the path for a career that matches your calling. The rejection that devastated you redirected you to a place where you are valued and seen. The disappointment that crushed you became the turning point that lifted you. Breaking feels like an ending, but often it is an introduction to a new beginning. God specializes in transforming broken places. He works through the cracks, through the pieces, through the mess. What others see as ruin, He sees as material for rebuilding. What you see as loss, He sees as preparation. What you see as failure, He sees as formation. And when God rebuilds something, He never restores it to its original condition. He makes it stronger, deeper, wiser, and more intentional. He uses your brokenness as the foundation for blessing because brokenness creates humility, compassion, and clarity. Think of how heartbreak changes your vision. You start to see through people's actions instead of their words. You learn to discern intentions instead of assuming them. You stop giving energy to things that drain your spirit. You stop saying yes to things that compromise your peace. Brokenness sharpens your spiritual senses. It teaches you what love should feel like, what peace should look like, what alignment should sound like. Without the breaking, you might have kept accepting less than what was meant for you. The blessing often hides inside the breaking. Sometimes the people who walked away created room for the people who will walk with you. Sometimes the opportunities that collapsed made space for the ones that will elevate you. Sometimes the pain that felt unbearable became the catalyst for your greatest transformation. You don't grow in the moments that make you comfortable. You grow in the moments that make you cry out for strength. The breaking pulls out of you what comfort never could. When God allows something in your life to break, He does it with intention, not cruelty. The breaking is not to destroy you, it is to deliver you. It is not to punish you, it is to protect you. It is not to limit you, it is to launch you. Sometimes God will break what you built because He knows it was too small for where He is taking you. He will break what you depended on because He doesn't want anything else to have the control that only He should have. He will break comfort so that purpose can emerge. Blessing comes after breaking because breaking changes your capacity. It enlarges your heart. It deepens your empathy. It expands your wisdom. It strengthens your spirit. You become someone who can carry more, love more deeply, lead with more authenticity, and appreciate blessings more fully. Without the breaking, you might not have been ready for the blessing. Brokenness creates room. Blessing requires space. Something had to move for something greater to enter. What broke you will soon bless you because God does not leave anything unfinished. He doesn't let pain have the final say. He doesn't let loss be the last chapter. He takes what hurt you and turns it into what heals you. He takes what wounded you and turns it into what wakes you up. He takes what broke your heart and uses it to open new doors, strengthen new relationships, ignite new dreams, and build new levels of faith. What seemed like a setback becomes a setup. What looked like ruins becomes a resurrection. Your heart may still be healing, your mind may still be processing, and your spirit may still be rebuilding, but blessing is on the way. Not a small blessing, but one that makes sense of the breaking. One that brings peace where there was confusion, joy where there was sorrow, and clarity where there was chaos. One that shows you that the breaking wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something meaningful, something divine, something worth every tear. What broke you will soon bless you. Not because the breaking was good, but because God is good enough to transform it. You will rise not in spite of the breaking, but because of what the breaking awakened within you. And when the blessing comes, you'll understand that nothing was wasted. Not a moment, not a tear, not a chapter. Everything was part of a process that is preparing you for the abundance, alignment, and purpose that is unfolding in your life. God uses adversity as alignment, though in the middle of the storm it rarely feels like alignment at all. When adversity hits, when life becomes unpredictable, When challenges rise without warning, when everything you counted on suddenly shifts, it can feel like chaos. It can feel like you're being pushed off course, shaken out of position, or thrown into a season you were never prepared for. But often adversity isn't misdirection, it's divine redirection. It's God repositioning you, reshaping you, and realigning you with the path, purpose, and identity He designed for you long before you ever faced the battle. Adversity has a way of interrupting our routines and challenging our assumptions. It shakes loose the things we've been clinging to for too long. It forces us to let go of what's comfortable so we can embrace what's necessary. Alignment doesn't happen in stillness, it happens in movement. Sometimes God will allow adversity not to harm you, but to shift you, to nudge you away from what is no longer serving you, to pull you out of environments, relationships, opportunities, and mindsets that were holding you back. Adversity becomes the tool God uses to turn your attention away from distraction and back toward destiny. Most people don't change in seasons of ease. Comfort creates complacency. It convinces you that where you are is good enough, even when God knows there is more ahead. You know you've outgrown something, but it still feels familiar enough to stay. You sense a stirring, but not enough to move. So God uses adversity, pressure, conflict, disappointment to nudge you out of the nest, not to punish you, but to position you. God knows that some shifts will never happen without a shake. Adversity becomes the shake that sets you back on track. Adversity also reveals alignment issues that were hidden in plain sight. You don't realize how unbalanced your priorities have become until something unexpected forces you to reevaluate. You don't recognize how much you've been depending on people instead of God until the people change, leave, or let you down. You don't notice how far you've drifted from your passion until adversity reminds you of what truly matters. Sometimes God allows disruptions because the path you were walking would have led you somewhere you were never meant to go. Alignment is about direction, making sure your life is headed toward the purpose God has assigned to you. And sometimes adversity shows up to turn you around. Maybe you've been giving too much energy to the wrong things. Maybe you've been pouring your heart into something that keeps draining you. Maybe your focus has shifted from what God wants for you to what people expect from you. Adversity steps in to correct the trajectory, to restore balance, to anchor you back to the truth of who you are. But alignment isn't just about direction, it's also about formation, shaping you into the person who can handle where God is taking you. Adversity strengthens your faith, deepens your character, and expands your capacity. Storms test the foundation, not to break it, but to reveal what needs reinforcement. When pressure comes, you discover where your trust lies. You discover which parts of you need healing, which patterns need breaking, which fears need confronting. Adversity transforms the inner structure so that when the blessing comes, you are prepared to carry it. Think of a compass. It always points north, not because the environment is calm, but because its internal alignment is fixed. Adversity tests your internal compass. It forces you to ask, what am I anchored to? What do I believe when everything around me is uncertain? Where do I place my trust? Adversity realigns your internal compass to point back to God. It clears the noise, strips away illusions, and forces you to seek direction from the one who sees the whole map. Some of the greatest movements of God in your life begin with adversity. Joseph's adversity aligned him with a palace he never could have reached on his own. Moses' adversity aligned him with a calling he never expected. Ruth's adversity aligned her with a future she didn't foresee. David's adversity aligned him with a kingdom he was destined to lead. Even Jesus faced adversity that aligned him with the fulfillment of his mission. Adversity is not a detour, it is often the direct route to destiny. And alignment doesn't always feel graceful. Sometimes it feels like loss, sometimes it feels like heartbreak, sometimes it feels like doors closing, people leaving, opportunities vanishing, or prayers going unanswered. But what feels like loss is often protection. What feels like rejection is often redirection. What feels like failure is often formation. God sees the whole picture. You only see the current piece. So when adversity comes, it may feel like everything is falling apart, when in reality, everything is falling into place. Adversity teaches you how to hear God's voice more clearly. When life is smooth, you may start to rely on your own strength, your own plans, your own timing. But when adversity strikes, you lean in. You listen closer. You pray differently. You surrender more willingly. Adversity draws you into alignment because it draws you into deeper dependence on God. And in that dependence, you begin to see more clearly what matters, what doesn't, what is temporary and what is eternal. Over time, you begin to recognize that adversity didn't break you. It built you. It didn't derail you. It redirected you. It didn't weaken you. It strengthened you. Adversity becomes the moment where your life bends, but it does not break. It curves just enough to line up with the path God intended all along. Alignment is rarely comfortable, but it is always purposeful. And when the adversity passes, and it will pass, you walk differently. You think differently. You choose differently. You prioritize differently. You know yourself more deeply. You understand God more intimately. And you carry a strength that wasn't there before, a clarity that came through the struggle, a maturity formed in the fire. You step forward aligned, refined, and ready for the next chapter. God uses adversity as alignment. Not to knock you off course, but to place you on the right one. Not to discourage you, but to develop you. Not to defeat you, but to define you. What feels like pressure today is preparation for tomorrow. What feels like disruption is direction. And what feels like adversity is actually God's hand guiding, shaping, and aligning you for the purpose He had in mind from the very beginning. Your next season will reveal why this one hurt, even though right now the pain feels senseless, heavy, and unexplainable. There are moments in life when what you're going through doesn't match what God promised you. The season you're in feels disconnected from the future you're believing for. You pray, you hope, you speak faith, yet the circumstances seem to contradict everything you've been holding on to. In those moments, you begin to wonder if God heard you, if He sees you, if He remembers you. But the truth is, every painful season has a purpose attached to it. One you may not see yet, one you may not understand, but one that will make perfect sense when the next chapter unfolds. Pain rarely announces its purpose up front. It enters your life without explanation, without apology, without clarity. You walk through seasons of heartbreak, seasons of transition, seasons of loss, seasons of uncertainty, wondering why this is happening now, why this had to end, why that door had to close, why those people had to leave. But God is a God of seasons, and every season carries something different. Some seasons are for planting, some are for watering, some are for pruning, some are for waiting, and some are for harvesting. But the pruning and waiting seasons usually hurt the most because they strip away what you thought you needed and test your faith in ways you never expected. In the moment, hurt feels like a setback. It feels like something is being taken from you or denied to you. But when God allows you to walk through a painful season, it's because He sees what you cannot see. He knows what the next season requires. He knows the strength you'll need, the wisdom you'll need, the discernment you'll need, the maturity you'll need, and He uses this season to prepare you for the next one. The pain that feels unnecessary now will become the very answer to the why. You'll discover later, there are seasons when you feel like the ground beneath you is shifting. Things that once felt secure suddenly feel unstable. Plans that once felt clear suddenly feel blurry. Opportunities you thought were guaranteed suddenly fall apart. It's not because God is against you. It's because He's aligning you. He's moving things, shaking things, adjusting things so that when the next season begins, you'll be standing exactly where you need to be. Sometimes the pain is simply the sound of transition. It's the evidence that something new is being formed, even if you can't see it yet. Think about how many times in life you've looked back and realized that something painful actually pushed you towards something better. A relationship that ended freed you for a healthier one. A job you lost opened doors to your true calling. A rejection redirected you into the right environment. A disappointment became the turning point that led you to a blessing. At the time, it felt devastating. But later you said, I didn't see it then, but now I understand. That's the nature of seasons. Understanding comes later. The next season always brings clarity. It reveals lessons you didn't know you were learning. It reveals strength you didn't know you were building. It reveals growth you didn't realize was happening. Right now, you may feel like this season is breaking you, but in reality, it's preparing you. You're becoming stronger, wiser, more focused, more spiritually grounded. You're learning how to handle pressure, how to trust God in uncertainty, how to let go of what's not meant for you, how to wait with expectation instead of anxiety. The hurt of this season becomes the training for the next one. Every seed planted in the ground undergoes darkness before it ever sees light. It cracks open, breaks apart, and is buried before anything begins to grow. If the seed could speak during that process, it would say it feels like destruction, but it's actually transformation. That's exactly what this painful season is doing. It's breaking something open inside you so new life can emerge. You're not buried, you're planted. And the next season will show you what was growing in you the whole time. God often hides miracles inside painful moments. He hides direction inside detours. He hides promotion inside disappointment. He hides transformation inside heartbreak. You don't see the miracle when you're crying. You don't see the blessing when you're struggling. You don't see the breakthrough when you're waiting. But when you step into the season God has been preparing for you, everything begins to align. Everything begins to make sense. Doors open effortlessly. Relationships feel purposeful. Opportunities flow. Peace returns. And suddenly you realize that the season that hurt you was also the season that shaped you. This next season is going to show you why certain people couldn't stay. It's going to reveal why certain prayers weren't answered the way you wanted. It's going to explain why you had to be separated, stretched, or shaken. It's going to make sense of why you had to wait longer than others, why you had to walk a harder road, why you had to cry in silence while others celebrated publicly. God didn't forget you. He was preparing you. And when the next season finally arrives, you'll realize that everything you lost wasn't loss, it was clearing. Everything that broke wasn't destruction, it was construction. Everything that hurt wasn't punishment, it was positioning. God was removing the temporary so he could reveal the eternal. He was removing the lesser so he could release the greater. He was removing what was blocking you so he could show you what was destined for you. Your next season will reveal why this one hurt. You will see the wisdom in what felt like confusion. You will see the beauty in what felt like ashes. You will see the purpose in what felt painful. You will see the divine strategy behind what looked like chaos. One day soon you'll stand in a place of blessing and say, now I understand, now it makes sense. Now I see why God didn't let me stay where I was. And when that moment comes, the hurt of this season will no longer feel like a wound. It will feel like a witness that God was working even when you couldn't see it. A witness that your story was progressing even when it felt stuck. A witness that every tear, every frustration, every closed door had purpose behind it. A witness that God never stopped being God, not for 1 second. The season that hurt you is the season that grew you. And the season that's coming is the season that will reveal exactly why it all had to happen the way it did. You've walked with me through this message, through pain, through purpose, through struggle, through breaking, through adversity, through seasons that didn't make sense. And now you can see it. God has never wasted a moment of your life. Not the tears, not the heartbreak, not the confusion, not the waiting, not the nights when you wondered if you would ever rise again. Everything you survived was shaping you. Everything you endured was preparing you. Everything that tried to break you was building you for the place God is calling you to stand. Your pain wasn't punishment, it was planting. Your struggle wasn't failure, it was formation. Your breaking wasn't the end, it was the beginning of a blessing. The adversity wasn't against you, it was aligning you. And this season that hurt you the most will soon become the season that reveals God's greatest glory in your life. So lift your head, straighten your shoulders, wipe your tears. Because the chapter you're stepping into will explain the chapter you just walked through. God is turning everything around. He's taking what the enemy meant for evil and flipping it for your good. He's taking the lowest parts of your story and making them the launch pad for your destiny. He's turning pain into purpose, a struggle into strength, breaking into blessing, adversity into alignment, and confusion into clarity. You are not leaving this season empty-handed. You are leaving wiser. You are leaving stronger. You are leaving cleared. You are leaving prepared. You are leaving with purpose in your belly and destiny on your back. And when God finishes what he started, you will look back and say, If I had not gone through that, I would not be who I am today. This is your turning point. This is your rising moment. This is your divine shift. God is about to turn your pain into purpose and your purpose into power. Get ready, because your next season is about to show you why this one hurt. And when it does, you won't just see a change, you'll be ye the change. The best is not behind you. The best is not around you. The best is yet to come. Now step into it.